For more on Bidenomics, former governor of Montana, Steve Bullock, is here joining me. Thank you so much for taking the time this morning. So talk about the environment that the president is now heading into. Obviously still high inflation, although we are seeing it starting to temper. But what is he really going to need to sell the people of Colorado on when it comes to Bidenomics?
Look, Rochelle, let's also first look at what's already happened with Colorado. 3,500 new jobs in that state because of the Inflation Reduction Act. You look at the fact that 12 million new jobs have been created since President Biden took office. Unemployment is, 3.8% compared to where was it, 6.2. 336,000 new jobs created in this country last month alone. And that was doubling what most folks would say was happening. So I think what he needs to continue to do is say what he's been saying, is that we're going to grow this economy from the bottom up and the middle out. And that's what, at the end of the day, Americans will be seeing.
And it's tough, though, because when you look at President Biden's approval rating, it does seem like the economic gains are not trickling down, at least as equally to everyone. Why do you think that's not being communicated, or what do you think is missing in some of the economic gains that we've seen with Bidenomics versus how people are actually feeling when they're at the pump or at the grocery store?
No, I think, Rochelle, first we have to put this in perspective, right? In what's Biden's approval rating, 41%. If you go back to October 11th or October 2011, what was President Obama's approval rating? 41%. So on the one hand, this isn't that uncommon in sort of an electoral cycle. And we're even much more polarized today than we were then. But I think what he needs to do is continue to do what he's doing, showing, you know what, we're working on behalf of the American people and all American people. And as you know, look, inflation, heck of a lot lower than it was. It impacts folks. So recognizing that people feel that, but at the same time, when you're having, historic job growth and you're making investments that are durable investments, like the kind of 3,500 jobs created through the Inflation Reduction Act in Colorado already so far, those are jobs that are going to be part of our economy for quite some time. And they're not just lower service level jobs. So it's definitely, I guess, a precarious or difficult time in the political environment. But I think as long as President Biden continues to stay laser focused in the U.S. on helping actually grow this economy, being the partner, making those investments where they matter, we'll be saying, next year, oh yeah, he was at 41%. I'll be darned. It's not that uncommon for presidents during sort of a re-elect of this point in the cycle, and Americans trust him.
And there's been a lot of focus on, asking the president when it came to funding for Ukraine and things like that, why not more focus on the U.S. economy? And we're now getting reports that President Biden is delaying his trip to Colorado as the Israel-Hamas conflict continues to not reach a settling point at the moment. How difficult is it for President Biden to really be able to tout some of these economic priorities when you do have that backdrop of geopolitical conflict and competition with China as well to contend with?
Well, I think, look, he's, for the last 50 years, he's been demonstrated as a guy who can, walk and chew gum at the same time. So he needs to, and one of the things I think that we're seeing, and, my heart and everybody else's heart is absolutely shattered over what's happened in Israel. But is another demonstration of a time where we really need a leader, someone that can actually work to bring the country together, and more than that, bring the world together. And that's what President Biden has been doing through this conflict, through this invasion. And he needs to continue to do that. And as we go forward, I have no doubt that both the president and the administration will continue to also demonstrate and tout to the American people, whose side are you on? Meaning that they're fighting to make the average American or the average Montanan's life better. And that's what we need right now.
And what would you say to people who are wondering about some of these investments in clean energy? Meanwhile, you have strikes at the UAW and some of these some of these industries that are more sort of fossil fuel focused, how does he balance that? Because that's what former President Trump, that's what he's trying to push. He's saying, look, it's too much trying to push this clean energy agenda when we really should be also focusing on fossil fuels. For people who are, union workers or who are in some of those more traditional industries, how do you think President Biden can win them over?
Yeah, and let's look in comparison. Like when President Trump was president, there was a 50,000 UAW members on strike, and you never heard a dang thing from the president. And I think what President Biden needs to do, and this administration has had sort of an all of the above strategy, but what they're doing and what the Bipartisan Inflation Reduction Act said is, let's make this not just a climate crisis, but a climate opportunity, an opportunity to create good jobs, to not leave communities behind, and invest in areas that matter. I mean, that trip out to, as you noted, Congressman Boebert's district, a wind generating facility that will make a difference, not just to the climate, but it'll also employ folks. And that's what we need to be doing.
And hopefully that message keeps getting out there and people do feel better about the economy. It is tough out there with that high inflation backdrop for everyone. I do appreciate you taking the time to join us this morning. Former Montana Governor Steve Bullock, thank you so much.
Thanks, Rochelle.